Welcome, Stephen. It's with the beat. Can you see my screen? All right. Okay. So I will just log into this stream as well. Okay. Yeah, makes sense now. All right. We are only two here, so maybe we just give others a few more minutes to log in. Once it's 9:20, we can go ahead and start. So, it will be live. Once. So, okay. Still waiting. Okay. Okay, let's just give till 9:20 kickoff. Okay, or why we wait for others to join in. I'm just going to start talking. Usually, I'll prefer if if it was a more of a class and people can actually talk instead of just having comments. But we'll make do with what we have. So, um, great, Stephen. I can see you already downloaded Python. Yeah. So Python, you could just download, go to downloads, depending on what OS you are running. If you are running Windows, you download for Windows. If you are running Mac, you download for Mac. If you are using Linux, you can download and install. For Linux, I believe you can actually just do it on the command line by using one of the utility tools in Linux. If you are using Ubuntu, I believe that should be apt.get or apt.get install Python 3. For some Linux operating systems like Ubuntu, I believe some of them ship natively with Python already installed. So you don't have a problem with that. What you will need will be to install other modules that you can use to automate networks. So I'm not sure if you can see my okay, no you can't. Let's see. No, okay, you can't see that. Okay. Here. Okay. So another thing that would be nice is if you can download this software. If you can download VS Code, I like it so much. It's a good text editor, and it also sometimes it serves as well as an IDE. An IDE is an integrated development environment. So what it means is that you can type your code, your source code on VS Code, and then run it on VS Code. You don't have to go out of VS Code to run it. And one of the good things with Python is that, and it's 9:20, so I think we've started right now. One of the good things with Python is that Python is a scripting language. What I mean by scripting language is you don't have to compile it. So, for example, take a language like C++. With C++, you first of all write the program. Once you have finished writing the program, then you have to compile it. And in compiling, you have to compile it for a specific version. So, for instance, if you want your application to run, excuse me, if you want your application to run on Mac, you have to compile it to have the Mac to be able to run on Mac. If you want it to run on Windows, you have to compile it to a Windows executable file to allow it to run. But with Python, all you need is just a Python file for you to run. And the good thing is that it runs anywhere. So if you're here, you don't have VS Code, you might as well just download it. It's really interesting to use. So I'll go ahead now and share my entire screen so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so I believe you should be seeing everything I'm doing now. So yeah, so I have this guy opened up. So if I wanted to check what version I have, I can just use Python like this. It's a good way to know which version of Python that you have installed. So if you also want to know whether you have Python installed, this is a way to check. So with this checked, I'm sure that I have Python installed already on this system and it's running. So currently I have Python 3.9.13 running. So what it means is that if I want, I can just do this, and then I've entered into the interactive shell for Python. Python is simply very good when it comes to scripting. What it means is that I can turn this actually into a calculator and do things like, and Python will give me the answer. So if I wanted, I could just do something like this. Mm, and if I said print sum, right? Excuse me. I have the flu, so I'm not very strong today. Okay, so with that, you could see the power of Python. If you can already do this, you already have a lot of power to do what you want to do. But seeing that we are starting from the basics, the first thing to learn whenever it comes to a programming language is variables. So when you hear a variable, what does it really mean? It means simply a bucket or an a box, just an empty box, and then you can assign data. You can input data into that box, whatever kind of data that you want to put into that box. So, say for example, and Python is very good that it's actually a strongly typed language. So, for example, sum at this point is actually an integer variable. Is an integer variable. So if I said print, I believe is it type? Okay, it's type. Right. So what type of variable is sum? So you see, it's saying it's a class of what? Integer. So that means what you can assign to sum at this point, or what sum is carrying inside, are integers. Integers are simply whole numbers, numbers like 1, minus 1, 10, minus 9, minus 8, minus 7. Any number at all that is whole that does not contain a fraction, that's an integer. So a fraction will be numbers that will have decimal places, something like 2.1, 2.2, 3.142, right? So those types we will class them as floats. So if I say, for instance, now that sum instead of being is now equal to 10.45 times 5, right? And I said print type of sum, you see, it's changed. It's now class of what? Float. If I still want, I can say, okay, do you know what? I want sum now to become uh, let's take for instance a string. I can say Python basics, right? So if I did that again, you see, it's saying the class of type or the class type for sum is now a string. So why am I saying all of this? I'm saying that because Python is scripted and the type can change at any point. So, what, for example, if it was a language like C++, once you declare this variable, you declare it actually like this, right? You are going to declare it like this. If this was C++, this is actually how we are going to declare the variable. So now it means that this variable sum is an integer variable, and at no point in the code that you will now come back to say sum is no longer an integer variable and I want to change it like that. But with Python, you can easily do that. That is one of the good things about Python. So you can do a lot of nice things with Python. Another thing I wanted to point out is why are we even learning Python? And the answer to that is you are really not learning it to become the next developer that will develop the next biggest application in the world. Why that is good, that will take a lot of time, and unless you just really want to become a developer, then that's fine. But if you really want to just automate networks and do some of the boring stuff automatically, then with the basics, the more you now do a lot of things, the more it starts to flow and you start to get to the weights. So the truth is, you are learning it to have enough tools in your box of tools such that you are not left behind. The network world now is a world of automation. If you cannot automate whatever you are doing, so anything that you do repeatedly, so say for example, there could be a challenge that every weekend you have to do show run on all of your devices. Let's say all the devices, all your core devices, you have to get the running config of all of those devices at the end of the weekend. So at the end of Friday or at the end of Saturday before the new week begins, you want to get the running configuration for all of your devices. And let's say you have about 100 devices. So imagine logging into 100 devices and doing show run and trying to save all of that. You are not going to like that. So that's actually where Python comes in. That's where it comes in for you to do a lot of the things that you want to do. So I'll just I'll just move here to a directory that I have created. Right, okay, so if you downloaded Visual Studio Code, you can easily just move to Visual Studio from the command line like I just did now. So Visual Studio Code is really nice. So take for instance, I just want to create with every language we usually start with hello. So I'll just name this hello.py, and that's a Python file. So what we are doing earlier was running Python on the command line, but right now I want to save such that I can run that code over and over and over again. So because we usually will start with hello world, I will just say hello world. And if I run this now, right, you see, that's hello world right there. So the good thing with Python is how easy it is to, let's actually just leave this guy here. How easy it is to start to automate things. Okay, so say for instance, um, what's the nice thing that we can do now? I've talked about variables. So how do you declare a variable? You can declare a variable by saying, if I said sum, let's use that sum again, is equal to 10 plus 71, and I said print sum, right? And I ran this code. What happened? Oh, sorry, missing that guy. So I just clear this guy, and then so we could see it's printed hello world and it's printed sum. The good thing is that sum is 71, but what if I just wanted to do to print sum raised to power 2? So I can do something like this, because sum is an integer class of variable. I believe it should now give me 81 raised to power of 2, right? So that's 6,561. So these are the things that you start to learn with Python variables. And another thing that I would like to say about variables is that with Python, everything can be an object of anything. So right now, sum was an integer variable. If I came down here to say, do you know what sum is equal to a string, and I say, I love network automation, right? And I now did again print sum, right? And I did that, right? And now, because sum is not an integer, if I said sum times 2, you see what happened? I love network automation twice. So that's the kind of thing that you are going to see with Python. So really going to the basics, the first thing to know is variables, and variables are just buckets or uh, things that you can just store any kind of data inside. What are the kinds of data that you can store inside a variable? You can store integer. You can store floats. Those are numbers with decimals. You can store strings. There are other types of data. There are boolean. Boolean means it's either is true or false. Uh, that's a boolean type of variable. And what other types of variable? They are just. Am I missing anyone? I don't think I'm missing anyone. Okay. But then there are also other data types that you find, because if you are doing everything with variables, at some point it's going to get cumbersome. So, take for instance, if we were 10 students in a class, and we had a test, and all of the test results are out or is out, and you want to store that in a variable, it will be difficult to come to say, let's say test underscore scores, right, equal to let's say we about four here. Okay, so let's say the first person scored 81, and then I have to, that's the score of the first person. I have to come back and say test underscore score one is equal to the person that scored 94. So this makes it difficult to really make use of the data. So what Python provided in that case is what we call, Python will call it a list. Other programming languages will call it an array. So I could just say test underscore scores is equal to, so I'll make a list and I'll say the first person scored 80, second person scored 94, third person scored 83, and the last person scored 77. So these are things that you can do with lists, and with programming you have to know all of this. Then with that you can start to tie things in together. So uh, let's say for example, what if I had a list of IP addresses that I wanted to assign to interfaces? I could simply say IP underscore addresses is equal to okay, okay, let's say 192.168.1.89. I could also put this guy, I can say 10.172.1.1, and I can put the last IP address as 10.10.10.1. Okay, good. So one of the good things with Python is that when you have data like this, you can easily iterate that list. You can easily go to that list to be able to get all of the data that you have in that list. So, for example, I have a list of IP addresses. I could easily say for IP in IP underscore addresses, right? I'm going to say print IP, and if I run that, if I run this code now, you see I'm iterating through that list and I'm printing out all of that detail. And what if I wanted to assign this to a particular interface? So I could say I could say I could say let's say interface gig one is equal to IP IP underscore addresses. Okay, I'll just So although this is not a very good example, but if I said print the value of gig one and run this code right now. Okay, let me do that. So I'm by no means a Python expert, anyways. So this is okay. It's still same code doing the same thing, but these are the kind of things that you can do with Python. So, say for example, I have um, I have a text file here. Excuse me. This text file, you can see the value of this text file. So, say for example, I can say with open. Open is when you want to open a file in Python. I can say with open whatever file that you have. I will say this is password.txt, right? And I want to open it as a file object, right? And I can say stored underscore password. Please, you can put in your chat if I'm making sense. So I don't. I feel like I'm talking to myself. It's not. It's not. I don't think this YouTube live is very interesting, anyways. So I can say stored password is equal to file dot dot read. Okay, so right now I can say I want someone to input a password. So I can say password is equal to, how do you enable people to input data into your running program? So there is a function called input. That's what you can use to input data while the program is running. So I can say, okay, do you know what? Input, but for this input, I'm going to just say enter your password, right? And then I'll just do some kind of if statement to make it a little bit of interesting. I will say if password, that's what whatever the person entered, is equal to stored underscore password. So if that is equal to what we have on that file, we are going to print a message to the person to say access granted. I can make another if statement by saying, do you know what? If the person enters, if password entered by the person is, let's say, Cisco, I will say print as to easy, and all of these examples, and then I can now say else print access denied. Okay, good. Okay, so right now this is just a short program, and what am I trying to achieve with this program? I'm just trying to first of all use this guy to open a file. I have this file already stored here. It's a password file. So I'm saying open this file. So with open opens the file and it stores it in a file object called file. I can use any variable I want here, just like I was explaining earlier that with Python, the variable can be anything. Everything is an object of everything. So with file, I've opened it as file, and because I've opened it as file, then I have all the capabilities of the file object. So, for example, do you know what? Okay, after this, I'll show you how to know the capabilities of an object. I'll show that. So, what I'm saying is, we open this file, which I already have in this directory. If I didn't have it in this directory, I'll have to specify the actual directory that this file exists on, and then I will say open this as file, and then I'm saying stored password is equal to file.read. So I'm saying please file using the file object. I want to read whatever I have in that text file into this guy. And then I'm saying okay, I'll ask a user. So it's more like you are trying to log into your system. So I'm saying okay, please enter your password. And if what you entered is actually correct, it's going to print access granted. But if you enter another thing, let me say for example Cisco, this is what it will print. And if you entered anything else, it's going to print access denied. So I'll just do that, and let me try to clear the screen. So I'll just try to run the program, right? Mm, mm. Okay. What I'll do, let me call this file name. Okay, so I'll just call this by file name. Okay, just making this up on the fly. Okay, so right now, and all of this is done sequentially. So at this point, we are at this point of the code where it's asking us to enter a password. So for instance, I'm going to enter Cisco as my password. Uh, this guy did not execute. So let me do else if here. Switch on. Okay, so let me run this guy again. Mm, okay, so let me just enter Cisco, right? This guy shouldn't execute anyway. So I'll execute it again, and then I'll enter the word Cisco, and then it's telling me that's too easy. And if I did that again and I entered another password if I entered what's on that file, so I'll just copy what's on that file. Okay, my God. Let me check something. Who is still here? Nobody's chatting. Are you guys here? Let me know. You are wasting my time. If you are here, please indicate so I can know that I'm not here alone. Okay, so so it's actually reading the file. So if I said my password is Python dash basics, right? Is this let me see that. It's not executing the one. It's actually describing the okay. I don't. I'm the only one here, so okay, okay. So, but these are the things that you really need to know then before you can actually start doing anything, with network automation. So, with automation, you can do a lot of things. There are a lot of things to use, but the basics that you need to know first are variables. And what are variables? Those are the things that I've explained already. You can assign variables with different data values. For example, you can see file name here is a variable, and I'm assigning it the name of this file, password.txt. And right now, I can now reference that file name as a variable in this function, and open is able to open this file. And once it opens this file, it's read whatever is written in that file. So if I added any other thing, for example, let me add some more things. Just adding some things, and then I'll come back and run this program, and I'll just comment out this part so that we can see that Open is reading that file. Yeah, so I just need to comment out this guy is okay, good. So I'll do that, and you can see it's reading whatever is written in that file. If I added more things to that file, so for example, if it was a list that you had a list of students' name, let's say CCMP dash CCIE group, and I save that and I come here and run it again, you can see that I can read that file and I can add that file to whatever I'm doing. So, where this thing comes in handy, for example, what about if what I have is really not this, and what I have is, let's say, conft, and I'm saying show, and for example, I say show version, and I say show running dash config, right? And I save it, and I come here and I read that file, I can certainly read that and run these commands on a device. And there are functions that I can use. So, for example, if I say, you know what, I want you to tell me the actions that I can perform on a file object. So, I can say directory for a file object. So what this code is essentially saying is this object, I want to know the methods and the things that I can do with a file object. So if I printed that, good. All of these, I will say just ignore the ones that are starting with an underscore and focus on these other ones. So you see, I can look at the buffer. I can close that file object. I can use closed, I can do encoding, I can check for errors, I can read what is written in that file, I can do read line, read line will read it line by line. So I can use read line. So when you are doing all of this, you need to know that's how I'm able to use file.read. I didn't just come up with it from my head. It's because I know that it's a file object and that to read the thing stored in a file, I can use that read functions. I can use also read lines to do that, and I'll still achieve the same thing. So why not let's do that? I'll say read lines, and let me comment this guy out. Good. Okay. So you see, it's reading it now line by line, and it's giving me a string object, right? And it's also giving me a list. So it's giving me a list where each data stored in that file is coming back as a list and a list of new lines. So when you have things like this, if I wanted, I would say, do you know what? What is the type? What is the type of stored underscore password? So these are the things that you really need to know, and then that's really when network automation journey will start, because for me, network automation is actually easy. The little bit of a stiff part is knowing how to manipulate all of these things. Okay, so it's saying it's a class of list, right? And if I wanted, I'm going to do you know what? Tell me the actions I can perform on a list. So let me see if I can slice it. Hmm, okay, I can't slice it. So because it's a list, I know that each item in the list is I can say this, I can say how do I do this now? Let me say first underscore item. Let me also comment this out. Is equal to stored underscore password, and I'm going to pass the first variable in that list. So if I wanted, I can now say print what's the first item. I can say, do you know what? Print the first underscore item. I think that's not the first I used. Okay, so good. So easily, you see, from that list, I'm able to access what the first item is, and I can use this to do whatever I want to do. I can use that to manipulate a configuration. I can send this to a device. I can do a whole lot of things that I want to do. So once you are good with this, then your network automation journey really starts. And one thing I would say is don't try to learn all of Python. Don't try to learn the whole things that you can learn in Python. So, for example, there are other data types that I failed to mention. I mentioned list. I didn't mention dictionaries. I didn't mention, let's say, for instance, tuples, and I didn't mention set as well. Tuples are like lists, but the only differentiative thing about tuples is that for a list, you are going to have that list, for example, will be equal to, let's say, 6, comma 9, 8, comma 9, right? If I do list, I think there is a list dot append. Good. And let's say I wanted to append 89, right? Now I've appended 89 to the initial list I have, and if I said print list and I ran it, so you see, initial list I declared was actually 6, 8, and 9, but I appended 89 to that list, and I was able to get whatever I wanted. So what if what I wanted to append to that list was, let's say, sum, which is equal to 89 multiplied by 75, and instead of applying a number, I can now say I want to append sum. You see, that's the number I have now. Right? Sum is now replacing 89, and that is the number I have, the number 89 times 75. So these are the things that you start to learn how to work with. Another one that I failed to mention are dictionaries. And the really cool thing with dictionaries, the best way to explain them is that they are key value pairs. And what I mean by key value pairs is like, let's say I'll just create a dictionary and I can call it dict. Remember, dict in this situation is really just a variable, doesn't really mean much. So key value pairs, I can say, do you know what? I have a value, and that value is my name, right? Good. And that my name is what is Chijindu Onoha. Okay, and I have another attribute as well that is not just my name. I can say my occupation. So it's just a key value pair. I can say my occupation is network engineer, and good. I can use another. Actually, I need to put a comma here to put that separation. And now, if I wanted, I can say, okay, is he married? And because it's either you are married or not married, I can say, do you know what? I will say, I will use the Boolean version. I will say true. So if I'm married, right, true. It can be true or it can be false. What other uh, uh, thing that can I say? I can say I have an ID, a job ID, and I can use a number. So one of the things I never said is that in Python, good that I remember this. In Python, you use the quotation marks, that's this, to reference strings. So a string is simply a collection of text. It could be a number, it could be anything, but once it is included in a quotation mark, it's considered to be a string. But if it's not in a quotation mark, it is not a string. So all of these in quotation marks, they are strings. Okay, so let me say that my ID number is 280980. Right. So really, this is a dictionary, and I can start to manipulate this dictionary. I can manipulate the keys in this dictionary to pull out whatever I have here. So let me say that I wanted to say print, right? I will say the name of the dictionary is dict, right? That's the variable hiding the dictionary. But indeed, there is a name key. So if I print the name key, what is meant to give me is, if I'm saying print dict but print the name, so what is meant to give me is the name of whoever is referenced in this dictionary. So let's run it and see what it's going to give me. So right, as you can see, it's giving me back my name or the name of whoever is there. So what of a scenario where I have two people in this? So let me say person. Good, right. Okay. Um let me see. Okay, let me just describe like this. I'll say person one. right? Is so. How am I going to do this now? Okay, we just do Control X. Okay, and then I can say person two, right? Is let's use who is please guys, please help me just put a chat. So I'm feeling like I'm alone here once more. I'll say blessed Ebube. I'll say blessed. I'm not sure. Are you married, blessed? Sorry, let's just put you to force, even if you are married. Apologies. So, and I know that this guy can be 188. Okay, good. Uh, so right now, that's the dictionary that we have, and I'm going to make it interesting in a bit because just a bit. So let me run this code right now. Hmm, what is that? 7. Okay, hold on. No problem. My even sure it's not this one like this. Sorry, me too, I'm learning so don't think that I know everything. Okay. That is not what I need to use. I'm just trying to get a dictionary of dictionaries and see. Okay, so I'm going to print out dict name, but because this name is also a dictionary, I'm going to say, okay, you know what? I want to print out the name of person one, so I'll put out this guy again. I'll say I want to print out the name of person one on the list, and let's see the dictionary. No. Looks like I'm making a mistake. Okay, do you know what I'm going to do? I'll just try to get a dictionary of dictionary. Right, so I'll just find one. Okay, good. So this guy is what I need. I'll copy that guy and paste it there. Okay, so it's exactly what I actually wanted to do. Okay, let's say that child one is Jindu, and child 2 is Tobias. Good. Okay, child 3 is Linus. So right now I'm going to print out the name of child 2. I'll say child 2, but what I want is the name value of that child, right? So you see, I'm going into the dictionary. I've got let me try to clear this screen. Right, and then I'll run it again. So okay, you see, I've gone into that dictionary. You see in that dictionary, child 2, the name of child 2 is Tobias. Then I can get that. Okay, so I was saying I was going to make it interesting. So let's say, for example, that you have done show interfaces on the devices. On, let's say you have done the command show interface. Right, let's do show interface IP interface group, for example, right, on a particular device. And these are the details that came back. Gig 1, let's say there is a key in the dictionary that is saying the uptime for gig 1 is, let's say, 2 days. Or right, and also let's say the IP address. Good. IP address for gig 1. I need to put a comma there. IP address for gig 1, I would say, is 192.168. Are you guys here? I beg go. Nobody's here again. Looks like it's only me. 192.168.23. Okay, and let me actually do description. I can say description is connected to R8. All right. Description. Okay. So time. Okay. All right. All right. And then I'm going to just copy this guy. And I'll use it to replace. And I'll say it's gig 2. And I'll say it's connected to R9. I'll say the year is anything 2014. I'll say the uptime is 14 days. And I'll say the IP is 101.23. And I'm going to do likewise for that guy. And I'll say this is the tree. And I'll say this is connected to R14. I'll say the year is 2024. I'll say the uptime is 16 days. And then I'll say it's 192.16.1.2. Okay. Okay, good. So this is our dictionary. Why is that guy? Still something missing. Okay, the last one is missing. Okay, so guys. Okay, so let's say for example, you've run this command and it has been sent to your device, and when you run that command, this is what came back. This is actually structured data, and now it's come back, and maybe for some reason you want to update the IP address of gig 1 of gig tray from 192.16.1.2 to .11.2. So what I can do is I can say, do you know what? I want to say that dict, right? Mm, I can say gig tray. So this well, that's one of the benefits of using an IDE like VS Code. You can see it's giving me all the keys in that dictionary. So was another key that I wanted to do. I want to say IP. So I can now say, do you know what? I'm going to assign it the IP address of. I'm going to change it from what 16 to 192.168.1.1. Need to be sure here. So this should actually be a string value, and the IP should be a string value, like it is there. So with this, if I say print out, just print it. Let me just print it, right? Okay, it's clear. So we can see what will happen. Let's do that. So looking for that, you see, it has actually changed the IP address of dict to 1.1. Maybe it's not very clear, so I'll try to comment out some things that we'll have here, or better still, let me try to remove these things that we'll have here so that we can have kind of a cleaner slate to work with. Okay, 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 okay. Good. Okay, so right now I can now do print dict, and it's coming back. You can see the IP is 1.1. So you see, I've gotten back this, and what is it that I can do with Python? That this is actually where Python becomes very nice. So what if I can use if control logic here to say dict uh, if that IP address, let me say gig. Okay, let me actually say the year of gig 1. Okay, let's use gig 1, and let's reference the year key, gig 1 year, and I can say, please, if you're here, please, let's say if the year is equal to 2004, Should we actually, okay, let's actually use another construct. If it is great less than or equal to 2004, let's use less than or equal to 2004, right? What do I want it to do? I can say, do you know what? Print year is still current, right? So I'll run this. Key error. So I made a mistake. So it should actually be gig one, not G1. So it's telling me that I have a key error. Like I said, remember that dictionaries are key value pairs. And so this is a key and this is another key, if a key also in the dictionary. So because I referenced a key that does not exist, my God, what have I done? Okay, so you see, it's still printing here, it's still current. So these are the kind of things that you can do with these details. So what are the things that you can start to do? So let's say, for example, if you run okay, let's say your boss comes up and says, do you know what, Jindo, we will need to upgrade most of our devices, especially devices on the edges of our networks, our customer facing devices. We need to upgrade the OS, and we want it all of them to have a minimum of an OS version of 1.1. Anyone that the OS version is less than 1.1, I would like you to upgrade that device. So let's say then you now do show that command, you do show version, and show version is actually going to give you all of the details of that particular networking device. You get all of those details, and you need to now you need to respond with that detail to do what you want to do. Just excuse me for a minute. Okay, so you get those you get those details from all of your devices. Now it's time to do some things with that device. I promise we'll be rounding up in 10 minutes tops. So you get those details, and with that you can reference it. Let's say if we wanted, we can say, if we can include a version key, just because I don't want to just because I don't want to do this. I don't want to um, do, let's say this guy is version 1.1. Oh, I can't copy this. And, any other person still here? I think everybody's gone now. And let's say this guy is one. So okay, so you can put it in the chat if you are still here. So if you are no longer here, I might as well just end it. Hmm. Okay. Okay. This programming is usually not fun, but once you start doing this on your own, you start to see the fun in it. Especially automation comes in handy where you have a lot of network devices. If you are managing just a couple of devices, I don't think it's really much. There's not a big difference. Okay, but it's still good to have that in your tool set because everything will soon be automated. Let's, especially the boring things. Okay, so let's say if let's say gig one, okay, it's gig one. Okay, yeah, that's the key. So let's use version. Uh, like I say, I can say print no need for upgrade. Right? And if I wanted, I can make this version actually okay. So with strings, what is going to happen is that it has to be exact. But if I am checking if the version is a above a particular number, so it will make sense to have this version to be a particular number. So or that's where we can start doing the less than or equal to, because less than or equal to really will not work on a string. It has to be an exact match. So if I run this code, it's going to say no need for upgrade, right? Actually, let me comment this line out so that's not printing the dictionary again. So if I run this, you see, it's telling me there's no need to upgrade the device, right? And also, this key has already been upgraded. So if I did this, if I say give me, should I do that? Okay, let's just do it since we are already doing that. Let's do gig tree. Give me what gig tree is now. What's the IP address in gig tree? I'll say just print it out for me. So you see that it will update that dictionary from getting 1.2. We will now have 1.1 in that value. So what I can do here is, do you know what? I will do this. Let's do this just before we assign it, and then afterwards we assign it, then we'll look at it again. Okay. All right. And I think we are drawing to a close here. So if you have a question, please can you send your question, so we'll round up. I know it's almost it's very late. It's very late. For me, it's actually still a bit. It's not as late as it is for you, but let's try to round up. So if you have any question, can you just put it on the chat? You can respond to the questions, and we would call it a day. Right. Okay. Um, All right. So what will happen is that this code is not executing because I have a bad key. So let's do that again and see. Right. So that's the new IP. See how I was able to change the IP. So maybe when we have another class, maybe that's really when we'll start to use Python and use some models to start logging into devices, start getting structured data. You can really start to appreciate um, what it is that the kind of power or resources that this provides. But just being able to do these things, being able to make API calls or being able to log into the device programmatically is one of the fun things about network automation. So I think we'll wrap it up for here. I think we've been going for an hour 30 minutes and an hour 40 minutes now. So we'll really wrap it up. JP, you have any question? JP is here. Who else is here? I think only JP is here. So Stephen, are you still here? If you are here, you have any questions, you can just drop it on the chat and we can talk about it. And assignment, not really the assignment type. Okay. What I would say is a book on Python and start to read, and most of these things that I'm saying will start to make sense. If you are looking for a book, one of the ones I can recommend is, let me just compare. I think Head First. There is the Head First Python. It's actually quite interactive. They'll do at least a better job than they'll do a better job for you. This book, you can just buy this book or anyhow you can get it. You try to get it. Or there is a place you can get books. But because of YouTube, I'm not sure I want to do that. Maybe I'll do that on on our group, and then you find out the way you can get that. I'll share the link of how to get this book if you're interested, but if you're not interested, no problem. You can get this book, you can get there's another book that I like, Python. uh, what's the name of that book? Oh, Python programming or something. Oh, I can't remember the name of that book. Yeah, Python Crash Course. Yeah, this is another very good one. This is a very good one to look out for. Python Crash Course. I've read this one. Quite nice. It's a good one to look out for. Head First is actually quite interactive. Oh, do you know what? Really? So I'll stop sharing my screen now and I think you get. I will share the books that I have with you guys. I'll just share it with you. Maybe let me just actually do it immediately while I'm on the stream. So one of them is actually a straight programming book, but is a network automation book, but they go a long way to help out. So we'll wrap it up. I'll end the stream now and then I'll share those books. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I actually had to stress to do this. I got the flu just yesterday. I'm really not in top shape. You notice I've been coughing. It's really it's really not so good for me now. So but at least we've kicked off. The most important thing for me was so that we can at least start. It's usually not the fun stuff, the basics, but that is where you get your leg firmly on the ground and then you can fly. But if you miss that, when some things are now happening in the future, or when the weeds are now going up and down, you'll be like, why did you do this? Why did you do that? You will not be able to flow. So get the basics right. For every programming language, the most important thing is to understand variables, understand flow control. Flow control is what we are doing with the if statements, the else statements, the for statements, iteration, going through a list of data and all of that. But I believe those books will help to also explain further. So I'll just stop here. I'll end the stream here and I'll share the books. See you guys on the other side. Ciao.